And that was done within a total of less than an hour of work. Less than an hour of work that lasted 4 hours. But anyway, that's what I was doing, and which is why I was kind of not attending here and then, and I apologize for that. But I wanted to make it a special introduction for you, and just to kind of visually see who we are as Diné, today known as Navajo. And we work at Little Singer Community School. In our language, we call the school Hathahi Yaja. And it's named after the medicine man that had so long to hear the kids' laughter again in the community. And back then, the boarding school era was in full swing. So all the students were sent away from the community to boarding schools. And so the community members, grandparents, mothers and fathers, aunts and uncles who were home had missed the laughter of the kids and playing of the kids, interaction with their children. And so they were very moved by that, and they felt a sense of loneliness that their children were off in boarding schools. And so, I've heard many comments that brought a lot of ideas, and hopefully you will understand us as Diné, as one of the indigenous people here, on why we are at the place we are as far as education and moving forward here upon the earth along with Father Sky. And so before I go further, And so Albert Brent Chase is my name. They call me Brent. I am of the Hanawani. Today my people call it the walk-around clan. But my elders tell me you are from the shoulder people. You are from the shoulder of white shell woman or changing woman. That's where our people were made. That's why we call it Wanava, from the shoulder. And so we were given a turquoise cane that would help lead us and guide us into life and this journey to old age and becoming an elder someday and a wisdom keeper someday. Then we were given an animal to be our guide and to be our protector, which is the mountain lion. And so those were told to me by my grandmother, and we have a song for our clan. And so that's who I am. And some of the landscapes you saw there are from my home area, and it's unbeknown to many people, but it's known to my family and my clan as places of where the moon travels and the sun travels. And those peaks that you saw are our calendar, and it's our direction, and it's our place where we find where our father, the sun, is traveling, where our grandmother, the moon, is traveling. So that's why I put a little bit of the pictures in there for you. I just wanted to bring to your attention that that's Little Singer. Oh, it's not on. And that right there is the man I'm talking about. His name, Etta Shirley. He was the medicine man of the Bird Spring community. He was an uncle to some of my family, as well as our relative, and that's his wife. And he's getting his hair brushed, and he had a wonderful smile, and he cared so much for his family and his children and grandchildren that he gave up a portion of his land, and he said, here will be a place of learning. They started from a shade house, a ramada. Under there, people would gather and teach one another, and slowly it grew. In California, young people came and started building some structures and started helping build the school. And so that's who Little Singer is. And I feel like once you kind of get an idea, there's the family idea there. And that's the school right now that's present, that's grown from just this Hogan, right? Let's see, it's kind of hidden behind these vehicles, but this one and this one. Yeah, those were the two original Hogans. This one right here is a new one that we teach. And then these two double domes were made by people from California who offered their help, and eventually the dream started growing. And now, all that's going down. All this is going down soon. We're going to have a new school right in this area. And so the dream continues to grow with my grandfather, Atrahi Yaja. And so that's where we're from. And I just wanted to introduce the place that we come from and our dream, the dream that we're part of. And so I don't want it, I tend to blab a lot, so I hope that we're doing something here that you can understand us and kind of know that we are in a position of our elders and our ancestors who were forced to Western education. For you and how you taught, you have total freedom of your learning, education. It's really unique that you say some things that are very culturally understanding, maybe sympathetic and aware, and I think that's what we'll take to be able to connect us, to open up with our culture. Because of the things that we've gone through, you know, we have been suppressed into a corner where we didn't want to share. And some never shared, and they've become an extinct people that now I see you're trying to study and understand. But we are a living entity, still today, acknowledging the sacred places of Mother Earth, of our travels and journey, and the travels that we do under our Father Sky and how it leads us in the direction that we should go and come into a sacred place where songs and stories have become to be part of who we are as the now and the creation of our world. And very few people out in the Western world know about the Navajo people. In fact, sometimes other tribes tell us that we're a lost tribe. But yesterday, remember we were asked to draw a bundle and we wanted to put what's in there. I drew what's in there in my bundle. And that bundle would go everywhere we went, the journeys that we made upon the earth, and it's still with us. We're not lost. We still have songs. We have prayers that guide us. We know our direction. And so we're careful to share it. And just so you know, there are a lot of academic Native Americans that do share a lot of their culture. But we are kind of in a middle point where we're still learning our culture because we have been interrupted by the educational system where we had no choice. But I'm a recipient of the boarding school era. I was told that I shouldn't speak my language and that I should speak English mostly so that I can quickly learn the English way. I'm a recipient of that. But I have never lost my indigenous language. And I'm talking to you and telling you a little story about my grandfather. He raised me, so I called him Dad. He's the one that put this language in me. And with it, I teach now. He would tell me, promise me, someday, never forget your language. Never forget how to tell people stories with your language. And I would always think, man, sounds like he's going somewhere someday. And sure enough, he did. He passed on and made his journey. And I'm left here with what he taught me in the language. And so I make it a priority and a passion of mine to teach my young ones, who are even, lack of a better word, worse shape than I am. They speak English now, first, where I was blessed to speak the Navajo language first. And so I'm making every effort to teach them and not to lose it. My grandfather said he went to war. In World War II, he used his language. It became a supreme language of the codes you now know today as Navajo code talkers. That is my father. And I made that promise with him, that I will never forget it. And to this day, it continues to move me. So just a little introduction of who I am and what I do. We'll mix what we're doing while one of you is talking. I'll bring out some. And then we'll just kind of share time. This is a young lady I work with. We're great partners, and I think that's an important partnership and openness with our teaching style, so I'll let her introduce herself.
yo yate she hashnida and shnido kiani bashishtin and kintachini dashichi achini dashinada Otlakande nasha. I'm from a community close to the Four Corners area, Sweetwater community. I'm of the Mud clan from that area, and then my fathers are Kia'ani clan, right there from the Carrizo Mountains also. Ado, Kintachini, my Chays are from Mexican water, just down the road from Sweetwater also. So that's where I come from, but I've been teaching at Little Singer for, I think, 3 years now. Ado, Chachine, Pa, Uncle. I do work closely with Brent Chase, and I'm new to the community of Bird Springs. I moved here about 6 years ago in the Winslow area. So getting used to the people and the community there, and then a little bit of different teachings than my own area of Sweetwater. So some of my mom and my dad, they're no longer here with us. But their teachings and their songs and their prayers, like Brent says, that's what I use to teach the kids at Little Singer. And my mom's philosophy, I use that, which is, our mission statement is, so using the home teachings. So in my classroom, this is where all my teachings and all my lesson plans come from, is around the fire, the poker stick, fire poker, and then the parts of the home, and then it goes out to that. And yesterday, we had some presenters talk about a lot of things that we are teaching our kids, and I was really, I felt more, confident in my teachings about what I'm teaching the kids, because some of the things that they talked about is what we're teaching our little ones, all the way from the constellations, the home fireplace in the skies. The kids know about that. Shadows, measuring their shadows, and then studying things like the travel of the sun, how the sun travels throughout the day, throughout the year, the solstice, the equinox, and then we honor that through doing sweat lodges. So we also talk about the 4 elements. So we put a lot of science into it. Thomas, he's the one that really pushes me also on the western side of my teachings. Keeps pushing me and tells me, these are new ideas, can you interpret that into Navajo? Then I gotta go back and do more research on how to put those two together. This is our 5 character traits of leadership. As you can see, Kat has a big thing, kinship, teaching the kids about relationships with the earth, the sky, and all their surroundings. And I've heard presenters talk about watching your speech, watching your tongue, all that is in here. And then we go out to like this one here, the loom. How much science is embedded in that? Like Nahasan and Yadishkit, the earth and the sky and everything. The water cycles that the Hopi was talking about yesterday. All that stuff is in here. And most of that, a lot of that has to do with respect and acknowledgement of relationships to our natural elements and to ourselves. And Mr. Thomas really pushes me into like developing things like the net engineering process, and makes me work hard on how to find things that the Western science has that we already had. So, and I do a lot of research on that and go back to the elders in the community and back home to research some of those things. And And then I teach the kids about, the Western science, the engineering process. They do their research, integrate things, how they understand it, and how we come up with our own. And then they compete, like in the 3D challenge, printing challenges, and their own engineering process, making their toys and teaching about their own culture, who they are, and where they come from, using both the Western science and native science. So that's just a little bit about what I do and my background.
Good afternoon. I was introduced by my maiden name, Etta, but I am Etta Shirley, and I'm the principal at Little Singer School, and Welphena is my youngest sister. And I've been at Little Singer for 22 years. I'll be starting 23 years, July 7th. So, and I just fell in love with that place and what Brent was showing about the late Little Singer. I never met him, but I read a lot about his visions and his dreams of how he wanted to see happiness, and he wanted to hear laughter every day. And so we're trying to instill that in the kids. So when you're going through the classrooms, you'll hear laughter. And when I hear laughter, I know that everything's okay. So that's what Brent is a consultant to the school, so he comes out Tuesdays and Thursdays. And we have a pre-K 6, which is under the Bureau Grant School. And 7 and 8 are charter school, distant learning. And we have a total of 120 students right now and 30 staff members. And what is really new for me this year is I like this place, this Hogan-like learning. So what we do is every Monday morning we bring the kids in, every Monday morning to set the tone for the week. So teachers bring their kids in and they start lining up. We form a circle in the dome, and they all shake hands, and we teach them that when they shake hands, they have to look at the eye of who they're shaking hands with. They can't be looking around. So they give them that relationship. And pretty soon they find out how by clan they're related. So I have a lot of grandkids, I have a lot of daughters, I have a lot of little brothers. So I look forward to Mondays because I get a chance to be called Good morning, Grandma, Shemasan, Shenale, Shema. And I get all these from the little ones, and they really uplift you. And so when you're having kind of a bad day, all that is left behind, and they all have a good day. And that's every Monday morning that we do that. And that's teaching them relationships. And it gets bigger because through the dances and the songs and the lessons and the regular curriculum, they learn the relationship of why, a purpose of why they're here from Earth to the universe. Why are they there too, and how are they related to? So they learn all that, and it starts from kinship with their friends. So I know it's a lot, but where my niece is sitting over there, when we were charting that activity, immediately she saw that it had lightning, and you mentioned the lightning. She saw it immediately, and I think that the innocence of kids, how they look at things, they bring it out, and it makes us think. And actually, they're teaching us how we should be looking at things. And that's a lot of what goes on at Little Singer School. And if you can make it out there, it's 19 miles north of Winslow. And 12 miles of it is paved, and 7 miles of it is dirt road. So we're still sitting along the road. But you're more than welcome to come out and visit our little school. And with that, Brent?
Okay. Well, that's our principal, and I'll tell you, I'm very fortunate and I'm very grateful to be able to have a principal that is very understanding in bringing in the cultural aspect of teaching. At Little Singer, we do push it. We do push our cultural aspect of teaching, because if we don't, we're going to lose it completely. And most of our students are English speakers first, so we do have a lot of work on our hands as cultural/language teachers. And so it really helps when you have administration and the school board are very much for it, because you know, the Navajo reservation, they don't allow it, especially cultural teaching. It's almost not encouraged. But one of the things that I find at Little Singer is that was what it was founded on, was to try to bring back the culture, the language. And so it's a perfect place I puzzle into. And I worked there about 13 years as a full-time employee, and then took a 20-year break. And now I'm back, and I think it's on my 7th year or so consulting, only due to Little Singer's son. His name is the late Benny Singer. And he could possibly be one of the last medicine men in the community left as an elder. So the community is really losing a lot of their medicine people. And I had met him in Walmart, of all places, our favorite place, Winslow. And I saw him in a wheelchair. And I says, "Hey, Che, what's going on? You were running around and you were really energetic. What are you doing on those wheels?" I told him. He just laughed. And he says, "Oh, man, grandson, old age is beginning to get to me. My body's getting old and getting some problems." Just a short talk with him on his health. But immediately he changed to, "Hey, when are you coming back to Little Singer? Why did you leave us? You didn't warn us, you just left." And so I always wondered, why aren't the kids dancing? Why aren't the kids singing? Where are the programs that were wonderful that you put on? We miss that. It's quiet. We want our kids, I want our kids there to start again. We miss you. Could you come back? And I just says, if the holy people willing, my path could come back. And so that was our last conversation. And about maybe a couple of weeks after he had passed. And so when I heard he had passed, I felt this huge obligation about this talk I had with him. And so we were at Maverick gassing up, and Etta was over there too. So I thought, I'll just run over and just say hello. And then while I was there, I was inspired to talk to her about my conversation with the late Benny Singer. And I asked her, "So what do you think?" This was my conversation with him. And she jumped up and she says, "Would you come back, Brent Chase? Really, would you come back?" I says, "I think so." And she says, "Oh, I'm gonna go talk to the school board and I'll let you know." And not soon after that, she said that the school board was very interested in having me come back. So that happened, and now I'm back, and it's already been almost 7 to 8 years now. How quickly time flies, especially when you're having fun, and especially if you are working with the passion that you really like. You know, I first started on my own, by myself, driving to Little Singer. And then about half of the way, my nephew that I raised, Garrett, we're doing our own little apprenticeship. He got hired too as my helper and helped me, observed me, showed him how to do stuff. Now I can leave after what, 3-4 years with me? I can leave the Hogan and talk to Etta or help somewhere in the school, and he continues the teaching on his own. And so it's a testament that it's not lost. And he's an English speaker first, but now he teaches in Navajo in the classroom. So it can happen, it can happen. And so there is a lot of hope for that. And so that's what I wanted to have you see or hear about as far as how I work. I'm still the kindergartner in all the things I do. I would never, ever claim how much I know. I would never claim that I'm a medicine man. In fact, they say a medicine man never claims he's a medicine man. It's the people that look at him in that manner. I just love to sing our traditional songs. I love to listen to my elders, and I like to retain it in here and in here and teach it back to the young ones. And so in my school, I am teaching. I do a lot of hands-on because I was a hands-on person. And so we've been studying about the sweat lodge, how the creation story happens, how things came to be here upon the earth and this world that we live. And so we talk about the sweat lodge, how it's set up so they can see what these main poles represent. And so we write them on there so they can see it. And so I tell them, you know, and this is going to be a quick, I'm not going to go real deep into this. But the first pole, it represents the white wind. And so it lays to the doorway of the east. Then to the southern, we have the sacred blue wind. And then to the west, we have that was what was put into these satis. We call them satis, the main post. And then the other doorway. And so I tell them, this is how you put it together. So if you were to ever make a sweat lodge, you would get these poles and you will fit them into each other. They will lock each other. And then that. And so then we fill it up. Then we cover it with earth. We go inside. It'll be very dark. And in there we meditate. We're in the womb of our mother. There we feel her heat. There we feel the sacred stones. They have many, many songs connected. Each of these have songs. The animal world, our universe here upon the earth, our universe up here, they come together. It cradles us in here as we learn. And their stories are really short, sweet. I don't get too difficult with it because they're still young. And plus they're English speakers. And imagine if I were to speak to them in my own language, how much more understanding would open up and how much more pictures can happen in their mind. But right now in their mind there's too much Xbox. You know, so we got to wipe that away and try to have them concentrate here. And then this is our first structure, and they call it a male structure. This is where all the planning, where the holy people came to create our universe, and we became the center of that, every one of us, and we relate to them equally. And then our home, our first structure, is also made in the same manner, but these main poles represent certain things. The first one here represents Mother Earth, Nahastan. Then the next one represents Zikistan, the female mountain. Then Pakistan, the female waters. Then Chilatan, all the plant life that are female. And then the Ayahni Ahar to help complete a doorway. My grandmother would always say the Ayahni Ahar represents our families. They would knock on it, and that's how we welcome people. And if you were to be married off, the family that's going to be bringing their son to ask for a young lady in the house for a marriage proposal, they would say, I came for this Yahni Ab and Yaniya, and that means that there was going to be a talk about marriage, arranged marriage. And so that's how our home represents. This represents our first clan. This represents our father's clan. The first clan is our mother's clan, our father's clan, our grandpa's clan, our Nali's clan. Okay, and this Yahni Aha is you, representing you, individual, everybody in the family, represented by this as a person who welcomes their relation. So there are many stories about just the home and just the simple structure that we have, and how the smoke hole we connect and look up and see the stars and see the constellation and how we relate to them. So there's many stories about this, but we simplify it for our children. And so I wanted to just show you a little bit of this and how we teach in class. And all these have songs. They have songs in it. The song itself tells you how to put them. Oh, it's like a blueprint of how our traditional homes. You hardly see these anymore, the forked hogans. I have one, but you don't see very many. And a lot of our own people say that's Hawan Bakai, which is a male hogan. It's a female, because of all the entities are female. And that's where our mothers, that's their place to raise their kids. So we tell stories like that and imagine how behind we are, because especially now our children are our first English learners. And so we have to really go back and step back, way back, and start from the beginning. And so that's what we're doing. And we use some supplements here. The first Navajo language that came out that we've been using is this, Nebazad. Some of you might be familiar with that. And then the second one we use in STEM, some of our language teachings, Nebazad, Dinaho, relearning. And so I'm an artist, so I do my own thing. Go to San Juan or any other publications, I use my own. And this one talks about, and I have all the different structures and different style of hogans that we build up to date, even to the square home, and the proper names for it. It's a coloring book, so it's interactive. There's the forked hogan, and so on. We have many different styles of hogans. And we gotta kind of break the American people, the general American people, out of the stereotype. Everybody, when they say Indian, which is even incorrect, they think about braids and war bonnets and then teepees. But we're even in the industry of tourists, and we teach them about these things. And when you come here, you will see the indigenous people don't live in teepees. They live in different style homes. And they all have their own purpose and name. And so the kids don't learn that they're Indian and then that they live in teepees. Even the bread has its own home. And a little shade house we call Chahash. Our underground storage, say one. This is where we stored our food. In the summer it was cool. And then it became more modern. A lot of people live in these right now. Some even get a little bit and made 2 stories out of our one. And then again, back to the basic home that we know that's been influenced by the Western world. And so that's how we teach at Little Singer. We even went as far as making a songbook for them to learn the songs that are proper to this particular home. It might not be, it shouldn't be done. It should not be done according to our elders. But if we don't do something drastic and push it, we're going to lose it all. And so I stuck my neck out, and I have the whole home songs. And we don't give it away. We have it there for the kids, and for the kids only. And so, and then the Tache, the Sweat Lodge songs, they're learning because, everything's reading now. And so it's easier for them to retain some of the things. And then our Bible, yes, we have our own Bible too. The Gugu and Gagas of our language. And I took that back and learned teaching the kids that if you don't Gugu and Gaga and make sound and recognize sound in your language, you will never understand or learn how to speak it. So all these are nothing but sounds, consonants, vowel sounds, and all the nasal sounds, the glottal sounds, all in here. And then we start putting them together to show them how it comes together to make a language and to make a sense. And so that's how we do it. And I'll give it to the ladies again, but before she comes on, just creativity of a book that's of our family and how we recognize the names of our family. And Shif means you. Shema means my mother. And they have the fun time of drawing their mother. One time we were playing a game, I says, okay, I want you to draw me Shema's son. They started drawing it, and they held up their drawing, and their Muslim had curly hair and lipstick and all that. It made me realize, my goodness, these are younger generations than I am. Where I saw my Muslim as traditionally mostly dressed with, the way they dress. You see Navajo women dress in their hair tie and all that. But when the young ones drew it, they had all kinds of perm and all kinds of clothing different, and it made me realize, okay, I need to distinct traditional grandmother and modern grandmother. So we're learning in the process too. They're teaching us, so it is right. If you want to be a good teacher, you have to be a student. Be able to listen and open up to your students.
What I just wanted to mention really quick was one of the big challenges is to, like what Brent just said, how time has changed. And a lot of the things that we talked about or listened to yesterday about kind of trying to get our kids to be interested in a lot of these teachings, because their interest is way different with technology here and English as a first language. And so one of my challenges is to show them, what this is and what it means. And one of the ways that I try to explain it is, if you ever watch a movie that's in just a regular movie, and then you watch that same movie in 3D, So that's kind of like the analogy I use with between Navajo and English. So if you watch one movie, it'll tell the exact same story, and then if you watch it in 3D, you kind of see depth, and you can kind of like go out and try to reach it and touch it. And that's Navajo language to me. I mean, that's my own personal experience, how I can explain it. Is you got to smell it, feel it, and be the language in order to get that full experience of knowing who you are. And that's a big challenge to show the kids that perspective. And so that's what I do with Brent's teachings. He comes in and talks about Sweat Lodge and some of these home constructions and what it means to him and where it came from. And then the next day they go into the regular classroom and the teacher tells them about these other things, the state standards, the other curriculums. And then that's where I come in and try to make those connections in the best way that I can, the best way that I know that will spark their interest. So I find that very challenging, but it's also very rewarding for the kids to come back and see that understanding look in their eye. I mean, I understand. I know what you mean, and they're starting to talk back in some of those the languages. And so that's all I wanted to share. And
Well, I hope you kind of have a picture of what we do with our little kids at Little Singer School. And one day I was talking to Brent about, Brent, can you put your lesson towards Common Core, what the teachers are teaching in English and math? And he said, what is Common Core? It's always Common Core this, Common Core that. So he started drawing this for me. He had one that had writings on it. So he said that this is our traditional Common Core. Their Common Core in here should be very, very strong. And that's who they are, their identity, their mom, their dad, where they're coming from, history, their community, and then their songs, their beliefs, their prayers. All that should be strong. Then they can start trying to understand the state standards. And he said it'll just come to them if they're rooted. So we're going to start with that, and he touched on a lot of it because he has those in big logs, and the kids, when they're singing, they put that together. They know which stick goes which way, and then they know how to sing the house song. And 4 girls went through puberty this year. They had a puberty ceremony. And we got a lot of compliment from the community saying that the girls actually sang mountain songs in there. So we know that we're probably changing 3 or 4 students, but man, that's something to celebrate. And so that's what we're doing at Little Singer School.
I'd like to add to that comment. One of the things that I've noticed and that I hear a lot of are the parents say when my kid came home, I didn't know this, but they shared that this means that. They know a lot of the animal names, and so they say they get tested. Do you know this? Do you know the raccoon's name? No. Well, they get told. Do you know how to say this? The parent says no. Well, this is how you say it. Then they get asked, do you know our sacred mountain names? They say no, and they name all the names. Because that's the base of our traditional education is, it starts from home. See, these are the main poles, how they're connected to our pillars across Navajo Nation, and all the teachings within there. That's where we're starting. That's the core of it starts from the home. So we had to start our own home at the school, and we are trying to catch up what has been not taught at home. there's always this too that they'll say to us as cultural teachers or language parents. They'll say, meaning, why are you teaching those cultural things at school? We send our kids to school not to learn that. We teach them over here at home. Well, they are fibbing. Because why I know it is because I can't speak to their children fluently. And that's an indicator that they are not teaching it at home. And so I say phooey on that, and I just keep going. And now, all those that we used to say it are quiet because now their children are teaching them. We're creating our own cultural and language teachers at home so they can take it to those that can teach them. And I always tell them, it is not your fault. It is not your fault that you don't know. Never feel bad about it. This is the beginning. You are my little seedlings. The white and yellow corn representing the seedlings. And I'm rooting them and I'm cultivating them, which is how it's supposed to be. From home. They're growing. They're growing. And pretty soon they're going to have pollen. That pollen is a symbol of continuity. It will float where it may and teach others. That's what we want. So they are our core. They're rooting. They gotta root. They gotta be strong. So someday a scientist comes up to them. They get asked a question. They won't say, I don't know. They will be proud to answer you. And so we as teachers are trying to find that fine line of where to stop on teaching and sharing with scientists in the academic world. That's why you are more familiar with those who have passed on. We call them the ancient people. You're studying their rock forms, their pictographs, glyphs, and they're telling you their story. Most of them are gone. A few are still here. Some are still strong in their tradition, some are not. And some have lost it. So we as indigenous people, it feels good to listen and sit back and hear you open up to the cultural ways and not always the Western way. Because that's what's been taught to us, and many times it didn't make sense to us, especially in astronomy. The Greek, why would it make sense to us when we already had something here that our Father Sky has been telling us? And then our deities, they keep visiting each winter, and they pray for us, and they heal us, they talk to us, and they put their medicine on us so that we can continue our knowledge. We draw them upon the earth with the sand. We invite them. And we draw them with this different colored sand. There it is. We see them. We feel them. We sit on top of them. And we take their herbs. We sing their songs and their prayers. Then we take them away. Let them go home although 12 hours of sand painting happened, and people that don't know much about it see it as, oh, beautiful. But then when the ceremony is done, we lightly and softly mix it up, take it away. And then we put it to a new growing plant, nice and softly. And we pray that this tree will grow. Our prayers will grow with the evergreen. As it grows big and tall, that is a symbol that our prayers are being answered. Then someone comes along during Christmas time with an axe, with a saw, and they cut it down. See? Cultural awareness. You wouldn't know that that tree you're cutting could be a prayer symbol for a family that's trying to heal from something. But we want to have our Christmas, and we cut them down, and we go back to that tree where we had put our offerings year after year, and it's gone. What do? We've become disarrayed as indigenous people because many of our sacred sites are destroyed. Many of our sacred sites have been meddled with, where we can't recognize these symbols, where the holy people visit to retell their story, where we still sing and pray and make an offering that we will live a long life. We can't, and then our lives get cut short. So, the seriousness of that, I'm very happy to hear there are scientists really opening to be able to understand and connect and make us worth something. Our story is worth just as much as the Greek, the Roman, just as equal. The Hopi, they still tell their stories. They still do their sacred dances. We are fortunate. The Southwest people are very strong in their culture. Some of our brothers and sisters out east, they have lost it all. Some of them in California have lost it all. Some can't go to a pictograph, or what do you call it? Those pictures on the, they can't recognize it. That's where the holy people visited. That's where the stories were. Some don't recognize it anymore. And so maybe that's why you're studying it, because you want to know what that story is about. It is our holy people, our deities, they're still around. We still talk to them. We don't have one God. We have many. Everywhere we turn, we can talk to someone. That's the difference. We don't have a hell. There's not a place we go and burn forever. The Christian world, they scared the hell out of us and converted us. And now we're confused. But some of us, we go back to our ways because our heart is leading us back into our home and the sacredness. There we hear the songs, the medicine man. They're the holders of all your questions. And if you can have them and break them and have them tell you their story, you will have this much more understanding. They're our wisdom keepers. And we look up to them. They have the songs, it's all written there. Their bundles, it's all in there. So I just wanted to close up by, what time? 5 after, see, I told you I got one. So anyway, I was going to share a song, but it's okay. We all have that rhythm. That rhythm is right here. You can listen to it. And not too long after that, you're going to find that we're not that different. We carry the rhythm of our mother. Never forget.
You should sing that song.
Maybe a real short version. Because our songs can be long. It's going to be because when we travel to sacred places, we always acknowledge these sacred places, and near us is one of our sacred mountains to the Navajo, the Hopi, the Supai. There are several tribes, so it's very sacred to the indigenous nations. And so when we travel and visit them, we sing a song and acknowledge them and their power and their teaching, and that it is one of the pillars of our homeland. And I'll do a short song, and I will walk behind the rest of the verses in the finish song. Yoshkaya Zishliek Abani Yahiye Zishnanet Ahiye Abani Yahiye Neyo Gabani Yahiye Gabani Yahiye Gabani Yahiye Gabani Yahiye Zitlanet Aiye Bembani Yahiye Neyo Yoko Oslediye Gabani Yahiye Dichitlet Zitliye Gabani Yahiye Zitlanet Aiye Sa'ana Gaye Big Erbejani Gabani Yahiye Neyo Gabani Yahiye Gabani Yahiye Gabani Yahiye Gabani Yahiye Zitlanet Ahiye Gabani Yahiye Neyo. And the rest of the mountains I will walk behind as my protection. I sang just the 2 songs, Sisnajani, the White Shell Mountain, and the Blue Mountain, the swords that I didn't, but I also recognize this one. And so sometimes my grandma says, you don't just show off and sing all your songs and show everybody how much you know. Sometimes hold back and save some for the holy people to finish, because they're part of this too. So I'll let the holy people finish the rest of the songs, and with that, many blessings to all of you.